And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
I can't pronounce this game exactly because it's in Portuguese, but S Jorge maybe Trophy. It's the Lisbon Castle board game. And it does come with English rules. When you look in the rule book, it looks like this game was made to be sold at a museum because it gives background, it gives characters, it almost reads like a tour map. The board, here's how to get around the castle. And I suspect maybe that's what the game was designed for. Unfortunately, in the case of many of these games, educational-wise and such, the more educational historical game is, usually the less fun it is. And in this case, the game is almost broken. Well, I shouldn't say almost. The game is broken. It's a very poor game. And while the idea sounded fun when I read the rulebook, I thought, wow, this sounds like a really interesting game. It's not. Look. So here's the board, which, as you can see, is a map of the Lisbon Castle. Each player takes one of these pieces here, and if you can see, they kind of fold it up like this and place it in a plastic base so that it ends up looking like this. Now the reason you want to do that is because you're going to be carrying tokens around the board. And so as I move around the board, I can have different tokens that are in the back of my thing. Now you can see that that's a fairly inelegant solution. And when I first was explaining the game to a group of people, there was audible groans. They were really annoyed at how the pieces looked. I thought it was an interesting idea, but hey, what do I know? On a player's turn, you're simply moving around the board. Each player has what is known as a home base. You're going to draw a card that has a whole bunch of text on it. Again, that gives you more information about the castle, and that will show you a number, and then you put your token on that number, and that's your home base from then on out. Now, there's different number spots on the board, and players will then draw another card, and this shows you what number you need to get to. So a player will, on their turn, move to that number. When they get to that number, they are going to draw from a pile of tokens. Now, the majority of these tokens are blank, but a few of them are treasures. Whatever the case, you put your treasure tokens that you've got into your character, and then you get back to your home base, you drop it off. The first person to get 3 of these treasure tokens, the real ones, is the winner. If you pass over somebody else, you can steal their treasure tokens. If you pass over someone else, you can give them your dud treasure tokens. You can move 5 spaces each turn, but you can move fewer spaces if you are carrying treasure. So you can carry 3 treasures, so then you might only be able to move 2 spaces on your turn, because each treasure decreases you by 1. Each character also has a special ability, and these special abilities allow different things on the board. One of them allows you to look at other players' treasure tokens. Another one allows you to use the secret passageways. These here. When I read about that, I thought that was cool. In fact, that's the special power I picked because I thought it was neat to take a place on the board that no one else could. The rules have an elaborate method of moving. You can't just turn around in the middle of a move. You can only make 90-degree turns. Some characters have the special ability to make 180-degree turns, or when you go to certain spots on the board, you have no choice but to make a 180-degree turn and get out. And that all sounds interesting and all, but really it's not hard to get to where you want to go. You just move around. The problem is, one of the character's special powers is completely unbalanced. Their power lets them switch spots with someone else on the board. And you can't move anymore after you swap. But big whoopee-doo. So let's say I'm the blue character here. And I'm going back to my home base. So I move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm almost home. I'm going to be able to make it next turn. On his turn, the character over here switches with me. Okay, it's going to take me longer to get home now. Thanks a lot, character who switched. He does something else. I'm almost home again. And then he switches with me again. And this continues on and on. And if there's more than one of these switcheroo characters in the game, there's a good chance that it will take you longer to get home, and you can lose the game because of that. You can lose the game because someone else decided to switch with you just to mess you over. And you can argue that that's in the boundaries of the game. And I would not disagree with you, except it's way more powerful than any special abilities that anyone else has. The map here is very beautiful, very nice. I like it. These pieces are definitely not up to snuff, but, you know, the components are good enough for what the game is. The reaction that this game brought when we played it was just basically universal hatred. In fact, my dislike of the game is very mild compared to the people I played it with, because the special powers were that unbalanced. Because the game itself is really not that interesting. Move, grab a token, get back. The idea is the treasure real or not? It's not really that difficult. If the guy isn't making a beeline back to his home, then it's probably not a real treasure. Because you can say, well, he's bluffing. Really? Because someone's going to run over him and see if it's a real treasure or not. Just to check it out. There's no... I don't know. It doesn't work. It comes across as a big game of capture the flag or hide and seek in a castle, and that's a really neat idea. But in this game, because of the components, because of the unbalanced nature of the special powers and the general boringness of how the game plays out, this game's really a dud in all respects.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.